I was told to deliver this message. You think you're invincible because you got money, bombs, guns, and planes, killing babies, innocent people. I think you're insane. Chaos and destruction is the name of your game. Somebody's got to stop you before the whole world goes up in flames. So he told me to tell you, I'll fight
for my brothers. We can go to war. Fighting for my father, I will give my life for. I feel so alone in this white man's world. Whip it in the kitchen, watch that white turn pearl. Standing on the corner, standing on my phone, standing with my gangsters, but I'm standing on my own. If you got to be his own, split you like you did alone. Sacrifice my life, understanding each his own. Toast to the keys of success. Bel Air rose on my breath. I've been a student since '03, and we can fight till we see peace.
I fight like that. 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 I fight like that.
Let me holler at you for a minute, give you game. Real scrappy, love to bada Buddha bang. Trigger happy, and everybody in the game. You shot your family and didn't even know it, man. Same rules, same code, with a different slang. Struck him out, now they took him out the picture frame. Mama, don't cry, we gon' get by. 2 weeks later, got killed in a drive-by. Why must we fight amongst each other? Reach one, each one, teach one, my brother. I teach them how to fight on the grass and in the class. Snoop Dogg, all stars, yes sir, they coming fast. D1, football, we won. Now proud of my son, Lil Snoop, yes sir, cause he won. Right on, SC, fight on. We 100, keep it coming, dip, slip, slide on, light on.
I fight like that. 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 I fight like that.
Watching the warriors, the story of the rebels. You from the ghetto, then you know never to settle. I'm shooting common on the streets, I'm a pharaoh. Battling in African-American apparel. Fists on a t-shirt, youngins doing street work. Grinding till they teeth hurt, that's because they need work. Working till the feet hurt, trying to get my soul right. Used to be on old bikes, serving them that cold white. Wars in the winters, the block is hot in summers. Today's mathematics, we know it's strength in numbers. To the bosses and the runners, the hustlers and the stunners. We fight for the hundreds, we fight for the oneness.
He fights with the heat. He fights with the sleet. He said, I am who I am. I can't be beat. Nobody has won a war against me. I fight like that. 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 I fight. All of the nations of the earth as we speak are angry. They're angry because governments cannot suffice the needs of their people. They're angry because a few have gotten wealthy at the expense of the many, and the poor and the sick and the weak and the unlearned multiply. And the value of their lives are diminished by the rich and the powerful, so that when human life is devalued, that in the eyes of man you are unworthy of the gift of life, then it is easy for another human being to take the life of another human being that he or she has devalued. Black life in America is devalued. Hispanic life is devalued. Even poor white life is devalued. There's a way that I have to behave. I'm free, but I'm not free to rob you of yours. I'm not free to take from you what does not belong to me. So if I will construct my life according to these righteous principles, then between man and man, man and woman, peace. Between race and race, peace. Between rich and poor, peace. We have our beautiful Mexican family. This once was theirs. So you can't say to them they are aliens. That's a horrible word to use for former owners. I see my indigenous family here. Many tribes, but they're really one great nation of people that now must be reunited with themselves. So it's their time now, as well as ours, that God would intervene in our affairs and bring the bottom rail to the top. The government is not rehabilitating soldiers. When they send you away to kill. When you come home, they gotta reconstitute you for civilian life again. Make sure you have a job so you can take care of your family, but they're not doing it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, a woman can do anything that a man does, and the only thing he forbids the woman to do is the thing that degrades her. So how high can you go? High as you want to. Why would God allow the female to wear his attributes if you can't be a manifestation of that attribute? Women, you got to be set free. What God has put within you must be cultivated, must be developed, and must be used for the advancement of a nation and a world. I said to myself, Mr. President, why the hell don't you go to the wicked police department? Why the hell don't you stand up and tell them that your killing of black youth and brown youth is not gonna hold no more? Why don't you stand up? God's world is in need of a truth that will set up a government where everybody can live in peace, under real freedom, real justice, and real equality. This city has always fascinated me, the city of Frankfurt. Known to be a city of trade and economic growth. As a kid, I was amazed by handing over pieces of paper for ice cream, toys, and candy. Handing over such a paper and receiving a toy racetrack in return, I just could not believe it. Where could I get this magic paper? This idea I couldn't get out of my mind. I started asking questions and read every book I could find. I learned the money was backed by gold as a paper form to save us carrying it around. Something of real value behind the paper. But everything was changed. The value was capped and the gold standard, as it was called, was abolished. Since then, the value of money has been the biggest lie of all. The dollar bill is now just a paper subject to inflation and devaluation. This must stop. The solution returning to a piece of gold that you can actually hold and it holds value or even better cash gold. Paper pressed and refined with real gold. A masterpiece solution, a forgery-proof, totally digital cryptocurrency. Here I am in the city of money, but not as a banker or a gold dealer. The Frankfurter Book Fair has invited me to read from my books that will help the world believe in gold again. Think Big will help show people how to be successful. I am very proud to be here.
Michael, this is Gardner Shaw. Francesca and he have been seeing each other for 6 months now. Gardner, this is Francesca's Uncle Michael.
How do you do, sir? I've heard a lot about you, Mr. Corleone.
They would like to set an engagement date. I was thinking that perhaps 2 months.
Let them talk for themselves. Why don't you sit down?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Francesca, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Uncle Michael.
What do you want to tell me?
Well, Uncle Michael, we love each other very much, and we want to be married. I came to ask for your blessing.
Hey, Mike, guess who's here? Not now, Freddie. Tell Mike old Frankie 5/8 is outside, all right? I'll tell him. What's going on? Yeah, they got it.
See, Gardner, Francesca is my oldest brother's daughter. And my brother Sonny died many years ago. And I guess I've been sort of a father to her, rather than an uncle. I love her very much.
So do I.
Well, I appreciate you coming here before you went ahead with your plans. Shows you're a considerate man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You go to college?
Yes, sir, I do.
What do you study there?
Fine arts.
And how do you plan to support your new wife on fine arts?
It's a good question. Well, I'm sorry, I just get embarrassed to say it, sir, but I'm a major stockholder in the family corporation.
Well, you shouldn't be embarrassed by your wealth. This contempt for money is just another trick of the rich to keep the poor without it.
Michael, this is Gardner Shaw. Francesca and he have been seeing each other for 6 months now. Gardner, this is Francesca's Uncle Michael.
How do you do, sir? I've heard a lot about you, Mr. Corleone.
They would like to set an engagement date. I was thinking that perhaps 2 months.
Let them talk for themselves. Why don't you sit down?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Francesca, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Uncle Michael.
What do you want to tell me?
Well, Uncle Michael, we love each other very much, and we want to be married. I came to ask for your blessing.
Hey, Mike, guess who's here? Not now, Freddie. Tell Mike old Frankie 5/8 is outside, all right? I'll tell him. What's going on? There we go.
See, Gardner, Francesca is my oldest brother's daughter. And my brother Sonny died many years ago. And I guess I've been sort of a father to her, rather than an uncle. I love her very much.
So do I.
Well, I appreciate your coming here before you went ahead with your plans. Shows you're a considerate man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You go to college?
Yes, sir, I do.
What do you study there?
Fine arts.
And how do you plan to support your new wife on fine arts?
It's a good question. Well, I'm sorry, I just get embarrassed to say it, sir, but I'm a major stockholder in the family corporation.
Well, you shouldn't be embarrassed by your wealth. This contempt for money is just another trick of the rich to keep the poor without it. Well, what can I say after that? Of course, you have my blessing.
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you.
Don't you worry, you're going to be next. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
You know, you might consider taking a course in business administration, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Make sure her dowry is big. He comes from a family who think Italian brides go barefoot.
Hey, it's King! Oh, Uncle Michael is the most wonderful man ever.
Become a good student of your own life. It's the information you are most familiar with and feel the strongest about. So make your own life one of your most important studies. And in studying your own life, be sure to study the negative as well as the positive, your failures as well as your successes. Our so-called failures serve us well when they teach us valuable information. They're frequently better teachers than our successes. One of the ways we learn how to do something right is simply by doing it wrong. Doing it wrong is a great school for learning. Now I would suggest that you not take too long. If you've done it wrong for 10 years, I wouldn't suggest another 10. But what a close at hand and emotionally impactful way to learn from your own experiences. When I met Mr. Schoaf, I had been working 6 years. I started when I was 19, and when I met him, I was 25. He said to me, "Mr. Rohn, you have been working now for 6 years. How are you doing?" I said, "Not very well." He said, "Then I suggest you not do that anymore." 6 years is long enough to operate the wrong plan. Next he asked, "How much money have you saved in the last 6 years?" I said, "Not any." He said, "Who sold you on that plan 6 years ago?" What a fantastic question. Where did I get my present plan that wasn't working well? Hey, everyone has bought someone's plan. The question is, whose? Whose plan have you bought? Now, those initial confrontations as you come to grips with your own past experiences may be a little painful at first, especially if you have made as many errors as I did. But think of the progress you can make when you have finally confronted those errors by becoming a better student of your own life. Now, the next way to learn is from other people's experiences. And remember, you can learn from other people whether they have done it right or wrong. You can learn from negative as well as positive. The Bible is such a great book because it is a collection of human stories on both sides of the ledger. One list of human stories is called examples. Do what these people did. And the other list of human stories is called warnings. Don't do what these clods did. What a wealth of information. What to do and what not to do. I think it also means, however, that if your story ever gets in somebody's book, make sure they use it as an example, not a warning. There are 3 ways to learn from other people. The first is to listen to the cassettes and read the books by and about people who've accomplished great things. All the successful people I know and work with around the world are good readers. They just read. They are so curious that they are driven to read because they just have to know. It is one of the things they all have in common. Here's a good phrase: all leaders are readers. And they use cassette programs too, especially while they're in the car or during other times when they can't read. Cassettes can help all of us easily pick up new ideas and new skills. Now, you don't have to read or listen to educational cassettes half the night. Although if you're broke, it's a good place to start. But here is all I ask, just 30 minutes a day. That's all. Stretch it to an hour if you can, but at least 30 minutes. Half rich isn't bad. 30 minutes. Hear or read something challenging, something instructional, at least 30 minutes a day. And here's the next key. Every day. Don't miss. Miss a meal, but not your 30 minutes. Hey, you can get along without some meals, but you can't get along without some ideas, examples, and inspiration. There's a Bible phrase that says, humans cannot live on bread alone or food alone. It says the next most important thing to bread is words. Words nourish the mind. Words nourish the soul. Humans have to have food and words to be healthy and prosperous. Make sure you have a good diet of words every day. I told my staff one day, some people read so little they have rickets of the mind. And also remember, to properly feed the mind, you must have good balance. Don't just read or listen to the easy stuff. You can't live on mental candy. Here is a thought. Why not call good books and cassettes tapping the treasure of ideas? That's it. Tapping the treasure of ideas, like you're doing with this program. And if somebody's got a good excuse for not tapping the treasure of ideas for at least 30 minutes every day, or spending the money and getting the books and cassettes. I'd like to hear it. Some excuses you wouldn't believe. I say, John, I've got this gold mine. I've got so much gold, I don't know what to do with it all. Come on over and dig. John says, I don't have a shovel. I say, well, John, get you one. He says, do you know what they want for shovels? Hey, invest the money. Get the cassettes and books. The best money you can spend is money invested in your self-education. Don't shortchange yourself when it comes to investing in your own better future. Mr. Shoaff got me started on my library when I first met him. He said to me, become self-educated. Standard education will get you standard results. Check those numbers and see if that's what you want. And if it isn't, if you want something better than standard, you must become self-educated. So I went to work on my library, and I now have one of the best. Shoaff said repetition is the mother of skill. And if you could have seen my bank account at the time, you would have known I needed lots of that kind of repetition. Some of the ideas in that book made major changes in my life. As I look back now, the book was worth thousands, and I bought it for pennies. I learned a very valuable lesson. There can be a great deal of difference between cost and value. Before I met Mr. Shoaff, I used to ask, how much does it cost? After I met him, however, I soon learned to ask, how much is it worth? I started basing my life on worth instead of cost, and everything changed. Remember, don't be a follower, be a student. Someone says, I read this book. Should I follow? And the answer is no. Read at least 2 books and make up your own mind. Don't be a follower, be a student. So take care of yourself. There's a Bible phrase that says, many times the spirit is willing, but the body's weak. So you have to work on both. You wake up in the morning and the mind says, let's go get 'em. And the body says, I can't even get out of bed. So work on your health. A person's library of books and cassettes reveals his or her most dominant desires. It's interesting to walk into someone's house and browse through the library. What does your library say about you? So read all the books. Now here's good news. You don't have to read them all at once. Try this, 2 books a week. In 10 years is 1,000 books. If you read 1,000 books in the next 10 years, do you think they would greatly influence all the dimensions of your life? The answer is, of course. Well, here's what's exciting. It's only 2 books a week. However, I would suggest if you haven't read 2 books a week for the last 10 years, you are about 1,000 books behind. Can you imagine the incredible disadvantage it will be 10 years from now to stride into the marketplace 1,000 books behind? For some confrontations, you won't be a match. And for some opportunities, your knowledge will be too lacking. For some values, your philosophy will be too shallow. Missing skills, missing knowledge, missing insights, missing values, missing lifestyle. It could happen if you don't read the books. Remember, the book you don't read won't help. You can't read too many books, but you can read too few. Now, the next way to learn from others is to listen. Become a great listener. Get around successful people and listen. Listen to what they say, and listen to how they say it. There is something to be said for style as well as content. And never has listening to successful people been easier or less costly than it is today. Listen over and over again until their ideas become your ideas, their inspiration, your inspiration. Ideas well written, well spoken, well received, well learned, and well invested can be your driving life force for wealth and happiness. Here's another way to succeed by listening. Choose a really successful person and take him or her out to dinner and listen. Ask questions and listen. If a man is poor, he can really help himself by taking a rich person out to dinner and listening. Spend $50, $60, $80, or $100. Go for the full 9 courses. Start with the hors d'oeuvres. Ask questions. The salad takes 15 minutes. Keep the conversation going. The biggest steak in town takes 45 minutes. Keep it rolling. Ask more questions. Pour on the dessert. Stretch the meal about 2 hours. See, if you get someone successful to eat and talk for 2 hours, he or she may drop ideas in your lap that could change your life. Multiply your income by 2, by 3, by 5. But you're right. Poor people don't usually take rich people out to dinner. That's the problem.
Ready for Revolution. Welcome to another edition of Classes in Session. I'm your brother and friend, Brother Eric Teray Muhammad. Hope all is well with you on this Saturday. It is Saturday, right? Yeah, the 15th. Hope all is well. We have a different type of session this morning where we want to look into exploring the tenets of a student, what a student actually is. And though you, many of you refer to me as a teacher, I just pretty much share as a student. I look into a thing, I investigate a thing, I'll try it, and if it works for me, I'm under the impression that it may possibly work for you, so I share it. I share it. I want to go over a couple of points that Mr. Rohn brought out just now that I thought were key, that I made notations of. I try also to listen and study right along with you as it's presented as a first time. Sometimes I'll take a moment where I won't even watch the presentation, being confident in the presenter that I might provide for us on a particular class and session, just so I can see it in that moment and react as you all react. Now, I can't comment like you all do, and I appreciate the comments. That's why I go back to them. But because I'm initiating the stream, it doesn't allow me to reply and respond with you as all of you do with each other. So I might just hit a like button and really love it, but I can't hit love because that's not a part of the application. So it just allows me to really look and acknowledge that you're there, acknowledge that you're sharing with other people, which I really applaud, dialoguing with each other, having fun with each other. I'm willing to share all the fruit that Demawi provides in the room. Okay. But I glory in going back to the previous streams, the sessions, and get to go through the comments, because it teaches me on what I could be looking into, what could be investigated, what can we do for future programming and thought sharing. Okay, so again, welcome. So Mr. Rohn says that students, we learn best through studying our life and our pursuit of life and those things that we hope to enrich our life, our value systems, our dreams. I'm paraphrasing, of course. He said, life should be made up of what to do, or he was talking about the Bible and how it's a wonderful book and how it gives you examples all throughout what to do and what not to do. Well, a life, lived is a life exemplified. It's a life that's exampled. I wrote exampled. Life lived is a life exampled. Okay, I guess that's okay too. Life lived is a life exemplified. Okay, because it leaves people with the option of knowing either what to do by the way you lived or what not to do by the way you lived. And we should all do as much as we can from the time we take our first breath to the time we draw our last, to do the best we can at living the kind of life that can be the example of what people in a world should do. And then the other point that he brought up is one that I cite often, and it's interesting how he closed out, because that point I learned in where I went out with a wealthy person for lunch and didn't know I was treating. But he cited the difference between cost and value, and how he used to look at things at how much they cost or what it would cost him to do X, Y, and Z. But when he learned the difference between cost and value, he then moved on to look at not just the value, but what is worth to him to act upon or enact or extract or to, achieve. So I just thought those were real poignant points shared. And we will go to our slides and our housekeeping notes, but I wanted to share in that really quick. And I want to draw on something that our mentor, Mr. Dalco, direct mentor, Mr. Michael L. Dalco, shared with us over a power call. And cost and value, he shared that as well. But I was a recipient face-to-face encounter while I was at lunch with him one day and didn't know that the lunch was on me. I had no idea, but God blessed us. We got through it, as well as the parking. We got through it. So he shared this point. He said, you may not have come from a wealthy family, but you can let the wealthy family come from you. Study and build your dream. It can begin with you. It can begin with you, but it takes you being willing to be a student. It takes you willing to be guided by a guide. Success is defined as the study of the obvious. All right. It is obvious that many of the circles that we find ourselves a part of are not wealthy circles. It's obvious that many of the circles we find ourselves a part of are not a part of a system that has produced the success that you might be looking for. So you hear often some people chide and say, well, if 6 of your closest friends are broke, you're the 7th. Who you align yourself, who you relate to, who you associate with become more critical as you become more focused about your intention. What it is you look to do with life and in life. And you're going to find, particularly with wealth building, because it's something that you may not have necessarily pursued before in this particular way or fashion before, your circles get smaller as you grow more toward your dream, your goal, your achievement. So the crew that I used to hang out with, the people I used to buddy and bump shoulders and elbows with, well, I still love them, but they're in another arena, and that's the arena I'm not trying to go to. I'll visit them. I'll talk with them. I'll even encourage them to come over here and check out the water on this side of the pool. But when you're building, look at it this way. Wealth building is eternal. It's a forever process. It is a permanent institution. How do you say that, and why do you say that? Because it requires submitting to a system. It requires submitting to an organization, and in order to be organized or have organization, there must be a system by which invokes the process. You could be mobilized, but not necessarily organized. You can organize as well as mobilize, but it can't happen in the reverse. You see, you have to have a system that you submit to, and when you submit to the system, it allows the system to institutionalize, because you begin to duplicate what the system does, and you duplicate it in others, and you reproduce yourself in others as a result. Okay, with the proper system, it gives the example of what to do. With a system that's not too correct, it can also give the example of what not to do. So I'm grateful for the system that's been produced for us as Wealth Builders Worldwide. Within Wealth Builders Worldwide, I'm grateful for the vehicle of which we have to control the economy under our own roof in Caribars International. You just need to know that the success of any of those things happens with study and applied study. You must study. You must be willing to be that student, not to show off that you know a bunch of words, or show off because you got a fancy book, or it's not about being seen. There's a lot of power in the unseen. You throw your dukes up, you're in a fight. You throw the jab. Now the jab don't mean nothing until it connects on the other end, right? When their head snaps back, they felt it and may not necessarily ever seen it coming. Why? Because the power isn't in what you see. The power was in behind what you see. The calculation it took for you to bob a little bit, weave a little bit, get past the blow from your opponent, and then you counter with the jab to pop that head back or snap that head back. All that comes as a calculation. That's a process. That's because you submitted to a system that taught you a motion or a movement. You see? Okay, I think I beat that one enough. I want to give you this clip one more time. Now, for those of you who are late to class, Sister Maui will give me the attendance sheet. This clip was a deleted scene from the 1972 movie The Godfather, favorite movie of all time for me. The Godfather. There's a couple more. My wife is here; she can bear witness. I cried over The Bodyguard. Sorry, I was in touch with my emotional side. But in The Godfather, there were several deleted clips, hours of deletions, and I have one that All right, if you can hear me, ready for revolution. Hopefully you can hear me. We went into a power out, and I won't be able to see comments for the most part because we're using a bunch of hotspots to try to get this going. So if anyone can see this or hear me, just let me know. Someone type it into your chat, and then that way. Okay, thank you, Sister April. All right, here we go.
Michael, this is Gardner Shaw. Francesca and he have been seeing each other for 6 months now. Gardner, this is Francesca's Uncle Michael.
How do you do, sir? I've heard a lot about you, Mr. Corleone.
They would like to set an engagement date. I was thinking that perhaps 2 months.
Let them talk for themselves. Why don't you sit down? Yes, sir. Thank you. Francesca, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Uncle Michael.
What do you want to tell me?
Well, Uncle Michael, we love each other very much, and we want to be married. I came to ask for your blessing.
Hey, Mike, guess who's here? Not now, Freddie. Tell Michael Frankie 5 angels are outside, all right? I'll tell him. What's going on? Family guy.
See, Gardner, Francesca is my oldest brother's daughter. And my brother Sonny died many years ago. And I guess I've been sort of a father to her, rather than an uncle. I love her very much.
So do I.
Well, I appreciate you coming here before you went ahead with your plans. Shows you're a considerate man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You go to college?
Yes, sir, I do.
What do you study?
Fine arts.
And how do you plan to support your new wife on fine arts?
It's a good question. Well, I'm sorry, I just get embarrassed to say it, sir, but I'm a major stockholder in the family corporation.
Well, you shouldn't be embarrassed by your wealth. This contempt for money is just another trick of the rich to keep the poor without it. Well, what can I say after that? Of course, you have my blessing.
Thank you.
Did y'all hear that? Oh boy, did y'all hear that? It's the trick. It's the trick. They teach the what you call it? Discontent. Thank you. They teach the discontent so that they can keep the wealth and keep it from the poor. Keep it from the poor. You know, interesting comment there echoed in that clip. I have thousands of hours of stuff. So look, class is in session, and what we are looking to do today is explore what a student actually is. To be a student and to build your dream, you have to know what your dream is, or at least have a goal, a direction by which you're heading. And then as a result of that, you start building towards it. And as you build towards it, you're going to find yourself positioned to accomplish things that you never thought imaginable, that you never dreamt possible. You know, in fact, you'll find yourself accomplishing things that you might have written down on what they call vision boards, or you put in notes or made notes to yourself, and all of a sudden it just seems to miraculously appear, but it's something that you had willed or placed in your conscious and your subconscious months or years ago. There are many of us that have experienced that kind of revelation, if you will. The fact that you may have arrived at a certain place and you're saying, wow, I thought about this X amount of years ago, and now I'm right here. Or how about this one, where you walk into a space and you say, wait a minute, I've been here before. Or I heard that before. Well, there are two God powers that are associated with that I'm sharing with you as children of abundance, children of the Creator, created in the image and likeness. Okay, I'll start with the latter first. You walk into a space or you encounter a conversation, and all of it is also very familiar to you because you know that you've been there before. And then they introduce this term called deja vu to try to make you dismiss it as whoop-de-doo, right? But I'm sorry. Okay. But it's designed to give you a peek into your future. You can literally see the future. That's why there's seers in the world. That's why there's different mind therapies in the world, like a Dianetics. That's why you have so many different scientists in the world, psychologists, sociologists, psychiatrists. These studies of minds and these studies of norms happen because there's a roadmap. And sometimes the roadmap is seen well into advance. We're taught by Elijah Muhammad that history has been recorded 25,000 years in advance of itself. So there are things that we are allowed to see. Now, depending upon how willing we are to be a receptor, to be a receiver, will determine just what kind of future we can determine for ourselves, that we can articulate or express or even forewarn. But it all depends upon what you take in. What do you feed yourself? What kind of nutrition do you give to your mind? What kind of nutrition do you give to your spirit? What kind of nutrition do you give to your body that works in concert with you developing yourself as that being? So we're talking students, all right? Housekeeping rules, 2020 Paper to Gold Run to Wealth Conference and Expo. You have 3 days left, family. 3 days to get a hold of your early bird $11 ticket. And as I say to everyone, that's an $11 admission for a multi-million-dollar experience. You want to be there. That's next Saturday, August 22nd from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Tickets are available at www.runtowealth.info, www.runtowealth.info. The 18th will end the early bird tickets. You want to get them. You want to get as many as you can. You want to share them out and distribute them amongst your teams. It'll reward you on the back end because those teams of yours will catch fire. Of course, paying yourself first is always the mantra here. You know that a tenth of a gram saved every day creates a legacy free from want and lack for future generations. Congratulations to many of you who placed in the contest on the Carrot Bit Exchange, the KBC Exchange. I got an increase of 5% this week, 3% last week. Now it's time to move toward the grams. How about you? All right. And today, 10:45 a.m. is a power call Eastern time, 10:45 Eastern power call. Today we'll be joined by, I want to say it's Matthew Taylor or Consul Hotep Atum, one of the two. And then at 12 noon, we have the live event presentation, the wealth building event. Bring all of your affiliates and guests and invites to this wonderful platform, www.goldrocks.info, where you can find everything wealth building, everything Carrot Bars. And then Mr. Best is with us at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight on Gold Rocks, giving the 9 p.m. presentation, and we're excited for that as well. Okay, so in order to understand where my mind is going with being a student, I like to look at the roots of things. I want to show you how my mind worked when this came across me a little close to 40 years ago. And I've operated out of this literally for the last 40 years. The order of words, the order of letters, they speak to a definition. Okay? All words are comprised of letters, right? Okay, words have meanings. And comprised, pulled together, they create a narrative, they create a thought, they create a story. Does this mean, this is my mind now, does this mean that each letter carries their own specific meaning to make up a word? That's how that stuff was processing in me. That's why I related so strong to Curtis Carroll yesterday, Wall Street, when he was on yesterday morning from San Quentin, and he shared the process of being illiterate and how he does not know sounds. He went into prison at 17 years old. He's been there now 20 plus years, 23 years now, because that was done in 2017. It's 2020. Okay, he's been there now, and he has a 54 to life sentence. And he never went to school. He didn't know how to read or write. All that, including the domestic things, shaving and cooking, and all that he learned in prison. Never had a prom date. Never went to he was enrolled in schools, but he didn't go. You know, his environment dictated a whole nother type of energy. And it placed him in a certain place. But there you found that God created a treasure in the trash. I know, Sister Joe, I can't do anything about it because it's all hotspot. I'm trying to adjust to another connection now as we speak. Up, back again. All right. So hopefully this helps. So the just sharing the mindset. All right. Doesn't mean that each letter carries its own specific meaning to make up a word. Check this out. What about the positioning? What about the arrangement in the word? The letters having a certain place in the word, does it have significance? So I was sharing with you about Brother Curtis Carroll yesterday, and I was talking to you about how he was one who could not. He was one who did not know sounds. He didn't learn sounds. Okay, so he taught himself through memorization. He'll take a picture of what was being said or a statement, and then he would trick his fellow inmates or the guards into explaining a thing so he can hear how it sounded, so he'll know what to say or how to pronounce it if he wanted to articulate the position or if he wanted to learn from it. There's little things like that. When I was coming up, I had a similar issue, but what I would do is I would go and test what I was hearing amongst people who could correct me, and I would do it in a way where it would come off comical to them, and then they would still correct me as they laughed at me, but I got the information I was looking for without getting the beat down, you see, without getting bullied or harassed. You know, you have to figure out ways to get what you need when you know you need it. So my mind worked this way. What's so significant about how words are arranged? So I'm going to show you a little something, and hopefully it will come across clear enough before we go. This is a mathematical theology. This was taught to us from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who only went as far as the 4th grade of school. Okay, and every number has a meaning. Number 1 is God or Allah, the creator. Number 2 is God and his message, or God and his messenger, prophet, warner, or you, the one who's been blessed to carry the word in an anointing or appointing. Number 3 represents trial or a test. Okay, 30 days, you know you're pregnant. 3 months, you know you're keeping it. 3 times 3 is here. Trimesters, tries, tests, trials. Okay, number 4 represents preparation and foundation. And that's sort of significant. There's generally 4 legs to a chair or a table. You see, it squares up for you. It gives you a foundation. As an example, 5 represents power and justice, 2 different dispositions within the same integer or the same number. Example, in the Old West, the 5 represented justice. And so you had the 5-pointed star before you had the 6-pointed star in the Old West. 5 represented justice. And then when justice wasn't respected, you got the power behind the justice. Okay. And then you have 6 is limitation, 7 is perfection, 8 calamities, a crisis, 9 completion, 10 represents new beginning. Okay. So those are the things that we were given in our training in the teachings of Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Okay, now, how does this apply to life? Well, quite simple. Everything is mathematics. And all mathematics can be proven at no limited time. You can lie on numbers all day long, but the numbers themselves won't lie because they have a placement that creates confirmation in all of its calculations if they're proper. All right. So what is a student? Of course, I had to look into what they call the etymology, the origin of the word. It's the first recorded mention, according to Webster's and Black laws. The first recorded mention of the word student was in somewhere between 1350 and 1400s Middle English and period, and is known as, it came from a Latin word student or stem of studens, studens, and it meant to take pains. To take pains. In an old French variation is known as to devote oneself to study. So to take pains, to take pains, stepping out of a comfort zone to learn. It's inconvenient. The pain of the inconvenience, the pain of getting up in the morning when you really don't want to, to devote yourself to a certain measure of study. You're sacrificing time for that where you may have wanted to use time to do something else. You might have wanted to be with your family and go to an outing. You might have wanted to go to a movie or event, or you might just want to cool out, but you felt it necessary to devote oneself to study. So you properly disseminated, I don't know what that's the word, but distributed your time. You moved your time to, you allocated a portion of time just for the study. That's right, says Damara, everything is math. So it's about you take the pain of it, to accomplish the goal. Now, student is spelled, I got to pull out a pointer for this so y'all can see it. Student is spelled Student. All right. And I discovered that each letter has a meaning. Each letter has a meaning, and you pull the letters together with as a word, it gives the word the meaning. So S is the 19th letter of the alphabet, and it denotes striving. That's appropriate. T is the 20th letter representing perfection, and perfection is often described, you ever heard people say, that was done to the T? It's a measure of perfection. T. Uni, universal oneness. So that's the 21st letter, the U, and that's its definition. D, the 4th letter of the alphabet, represents discipline. Get on the court and you're running up and down the court. Your opponent has the ball. You got to put that D up. You got to put that D up. Why? You got to discipline yourself to defend against an offense or defend against a score. E represents the 5th letter in the position in the alphabet, known as excellence. You saw it in grades through school, or at least I heard about them. Okay. N was interesting to me because it's more scientific in its definition. It's the 14th letter of the alphabet, but it represents netted or controlled, and T comes back again, the 20th letter representing perfection. Now, what does this really mean to me? I want someone to add these numbers and put it in the chat. 19, 20, 21, 4, 5, 14, 20. I'll say it again. 19 plus 20 plus 21 plus 4 plus 5 plus 14 plus 20. Okay, those are the positions of each letter from the S to the last T in student. Now, so if you take the definition of each letter and you just call it out, striving for perfection in unity with a level of discipline to achieve your excellence, netted or controlled for perfection. Well, that speaks to the whole student. So when I saw that relationship, words became clear to me and they took on a whole new meaning for me. And when I can relate it to math, then I was no longer afraid to do math. You know, and we have this, my wife and I got this from a particular show. I forgot the name of the show, but there was a character who talked about the propensities and proclivities, you know, and I like those words, you know. So I have a certain proclivity. Say Prison Break. Oh, the show was Prison Break. Sister Falami Muhammad, my sponsor's back here, getting it in. She behind me. Yeah, it was called Prison Break. Yeah, and this character used the word proclivity, you know. But I have this leaning, this inclination towards math in an insane fashion because I can relate it to words. I can relate it to words, and that's how it developed in me. Okay, so to be a student is one who's constantly striving in perfection. Okay, in perfection, what do you mean by that? Well, in the perfection, you want to achieve, but you need to be united with a teacher. So, you know, we hear often in Wealth Builders that when the student appears, the teacher comes, right? But you also hear in Wealth Builders and in scriptures, it says, how can one know unless they have a teacher? And how can he have a teacher unless he be sent? So there's a relationship, a perfected relationship between the knowledge or the message or the guide and the one who wants it, the striver, right? I hope this is making sense to y'all because I'm getting a rush from it personally. Okay, so thank you, Sister Renee. Again, 103, this it equals 103. Okay, so 19 plus 20 plus 21 plus 4 plus 5 plus 14 plus 20 equals 103. That's what I got out of it too. Thank you, Brother Ron Newton. Thank you all. All right, so now let's look at this. We talked about the arrangement of the numbers, right? How they work. I'm going to show you how order is also involved. The letter S is the 19th letter. But when you add that 1 and 9, you get 10. Okay, you get 10. When you add the 1 and 0, you get 1. That's the first position. Then you got T, as student. It's the 20th letter. You add the 2 and the 0, you have 2. So you have 1, 2, student now, 21st letter, 2, 1 plus 1 equals 3. Look how it just falls in order. 1, 2, 3. D is the 4th letter, 4. E is the 5th letter, 5. Is that amazing? But look, when you get to 5, remember 5 represents power and justice. So it has two meanings. And God is so perfect in what he does, he gave you 2 5s. Because when you add the 1 plus 4 in 14, that's 5. That's right, Danny D. James. Danny D. James says that the number, the 103, right? He said the number adds up. There it goes. The number adds up to 103. And because Mr. Dalco was a great student, he retired in 103 days. Woo! Got me doing my Kansu version of woo! I got it. But then you got to allow me to post it. Please post it. But I want to share that with Mr. Dalco as well. He might be on the stream. So just think about that. Think about that. 103. That's right, Sister Renee. We can't make this stuff up. So look. After you go across the 2 5s, it brings you right back to the perfection you sought in the beginning. It brings you right back to it. And it doesn't start off with you by yourself. It doesn't start off with you at as being the one striving, now you have company on the journey to where? You're the student striving for perfection. Well, now that you reach here, what's the next step? You're still striving. You get to a top of a mountain only to find out there's a valley on the other side and leads to another mountain. So what do? You keep moving. You find yourself accomplishing certain aspects of your dream. And because you realize certain aspects of it, now what do? You keep moving. Why? Because your dream is getting larger. It has expanded. You started with 1/10 of a gram of gold, 1 gram of gold, and you put it on autosave and you forgot all about it. Now you have thousands of grams, many of you. Hundreds of grams, many of you. Started with 1, but it goes on to grow. That 103 had several meanings because, yes, it is very significant. You don't want to dismiss the spiritual connotation between the striving of a Michael L. Dalco, the weight of it, its gravity in wealth builders worldwide, and the fact that he accomplished in 103 days. Okay. Now he's lived 49 years before he knew gold was money. He worked 15 years before he got to the 103. So the saleable part, meaning the part that's marketable in the 103, is the fact that he did it in the wealth building. He exploded on the scene in 103 days and became free at the end of that 103. But the real part of the real power in what is said is the fact that he failed 19 years in marketing and networking and then exploded in 103 days. Give yourself the time required to succeed, but you put all the tools in place by which you can do it. That's why he's so adamant about the tools in the system now, because part of the failing up was related to not doing everything related to a system. He admitted he never went to a live event or put one on until he came to Wealth Builders and Karatbars International. The energy from it, the what you feel from it, what you gain, what you learn wasn't available to him because he denied himself. Interesting, right? Okay, 103. I'm gonna come back to that as we close out. So look at the math theology. Okay. Look at how it lined up against what we had mentioned. That first position, the letter S, that was 19. That's the 19th letter, right? You add that together, those two numbers, the 1 and 9, you got 10. 10 represents the new beginning. It's that 1 backing the beginning of a no one, a cipher. Meaning, when you start out, the beginning is so humble because it's just you. But when you're backed by the power of the teacher, the master teacher, the creator of the abundance you seek, then you are 0, or your cipher, it now becomes 10. And it gives you the power to lift off. Okay, 103. 103, when you add the 1, the 0, and the 3, you come out with 4. So he excelled in 103 days, but it only prepared him for another journey. You get the 4, preparation and foundation. It gave him the foundation, and Mr. Best the foundation to launch the culture of wealth builders worldwide. They're only separated by, I believe, a week in joining this opportunity. And look at the foundation and what it has done. Because he submitted to the system of a master teacher. A system that didn't begin with him, but a system that was honed, crafted, and tweaked. And now 100, Mr. Best said to me yesterday, he believes it's probably 150,000 in wealth builders worldwide now. And tens of thousands more have been affected by the culture of the movement. The 103 in closing. The 103, in the Holy Quran, there's a chapter, the 103rd Surah al-Asr, known as the time, you know, and it says, by the time, man is at loss, except those who encourage others to do good, exhort one another to good, and exhort one another to patience. And when you have an opportunity to explode on the scene like this, you want to know that mathematically it all adds up. And when you look at the motion of Wealth Builders Worldwide and its leadership, there's no way in the world that you cannot see that things are adding up. So, you know, I hope you all got something out of that. There's more to a student than just being in class or being in attendance. There's more to it, you know, in your life process, in your pursuit. It all involves study, you know, and you have, everyone has impediments, challenges to study. Many of us learn differently. I pointed out to you all earlier this week how my wife explained to me the difference between the auditory learner and the visual learner. Okay, and so I try to combine a lot of visual, a lot of audio, because I don't know what's going to resonate in the next person. I know that they both happen to work for me. Okay, and I can't say to what extent it does. That's right, Brother Amos. I said mathematics is the way of life. Peace, God. You know, so I hope you got something from this, but I also want to share something else. You know, you cannot excel in your goal by muddling the waters with other, how do I put it? Don't major in the minor. Strive hard not to major in minor things. Sometimes the minor things can be defined or discovered, or identified rather. Sometimes the minor things can be identified as instant gratification. Sometimes it can be defined as panic. There are people who numbers haven't come together the way they desired. So right away they said, look, man, I got to go. I got to figure out another way. This money's not coming. I need to go get a job. I need to go get a gig. I need to do that and the other. And I want you to understand that that's fine. Keep the mindset that the job or the employment is going to finance your dream. You know, you're not working for somebody else at that point. You're building a business. You're building your pursuit. You're building your dream for yourself. So you're financing your freedom. It was a job before you had the knowledge of wealth building. It was a job before you had entrepreneurship in your mind. Now you understand that there's a different mindset in you now, and it can cloud the energy that you would give to that need if you don't understand that you haven't left or abandoned anything, and you should not feel like you let anyone down, including yourself. You just have to give yourself the time to succeed. And if you have a circle of people, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, a network, when you have a circle of people who are willing to assist in that, you know, I don't have a clock to punch, but if my wife didn't, we'd really be in a pickle. You see? So there's certain things that you have to weigh and navigate through, but never think because you find yourself not reaching that point just yet doesn't mean that it's not coming. Just stay plugged in. Whatever you do, stay plugged in. Lastly, it was brought to my attention last night that several posts have gone out in social media with my name or picture attached to it, encouraging people to do other programs. You know, I only have one program, folks. I only endorse one way. And that's the way that I've been expressing to you now for almost 2 years. I don't look for anything else. I don't know anything else. I don't care to know anything else, because gold is money. It comes from God. I consider myself a servant of his, and I strive under this mantra. And I am a wealth builder, you know, Carabars International. So I only learned last night what forsage is, because I always confused it with Forex, but I didn't know what it meant until someone applied it to me, and it came back to me in a conversation last night. Don't do that, people. Don't do that. Stand on your laurels, stand on your strengths. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I applaud it. But if that's not me, don't use me for the endorsement of what you're doing. I wouldn't do that to you. Okay, that's just my little word of advice. I mean, you can, some of y'all may do it or not. It was brought to my attention. I have not seen it, but I can tell you this: whatever God has for me, can't anyone take away. But one great impediment there is for many people is when you try to do so many things at one time. You're only one being, and you're only given one set of hours every day. You're 24 hours in a day. You're 86,400 seconds. You only get that once a day. And the more you take on, the more you divide up that time. And the more you divide up that time, the more energy you take away from whatever you think is going to bring you your reward. Yeah, you may have 2 horses, but you can only ride one at a time. So just a hint to the wise, I believe, should be sufficient. Well, I appreciate you, family. It's been great. I hope you got something from the student aspect of it, because that's really where we're going. And if you do the proper study, you understand that you don't need, when you got a program inside of itself that gives you 30 additional streams of income, then you really should pay attention to what's in your in your possession now, and not go outside the house and running down the street to chase a bone when you got a whole coop in your yard. All right, family, thank you so much. I'm making my move to see whose streams I can catch. This was pretty long. I know the technology had a lot to do with that, but I appreciate your time, and I may redo this next Saturday to hone in really on the student aspect, and I might dedicate Saturdays towards that, because there are things in the trainings that really need to be expounded on. Well, next Saturday is the event, so it won't be too much honing in there, but there will be a special part of the Paper to Gold conference that you're going to find extraordinarily helpful in your wealth building pursuits. And we're excited about it. The leadership is excited about it. And we're going to be glad and honored to bring it. So make sure you find yourself in the place to be. 2020 Paper to Gold Run to Wealth Conference. You know what we do. www.runtowealth.info, www.runtowealth.info. Peace and power, family. I'll see us all on the power call. Forward.
Peace. Strong words. Love. Soul. And change. Yeah. This is Big Snoop Dogg. Coming at you live and direct. And I got something to say. You dig?
Let's change the world, divided we forward, united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, oh let's learn to love again. Let's change the world, let's change the world.
Brother, 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 what will you discover if we come together and do it like we never? I'm just sick and tired. I'm fit to light the fire. Now put this on the wire. The devil is a liar. I do this with no hesitation. Meet me at the reservation. Elevating, educating, meditating, concentrating. Replenisher, finisher, opposite of sinister. And I do it for the minister.
Let's change the world, divided we fall, united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, so let's learn to live again. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Oh, oh, oh. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.
Somebody need to stop the war. Man, the war ain't overseas, it's at your front door. And I done seen too many brothers shot up on the floor for more than drugs and some colors. And now you call us warlords. But if you can help it, then help it. But you ain't helping us. You so selfish and selfless, you wanna see us breathless and helpless. But I'ma hustle and tussle for all my brothers who struggle. Yeah, we bang the world. Now let's change the world.
Let's change the world, divided we fall, united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, oh let's learn to love again. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Oh, oh, oh. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.
No killing, no shooting, no dying, no lying, no gang banging, so no more mamas crying. Everybody get along, man, that be the perfect song. Peace in the streets as I sit back on my phone, chilling with the president. He let me in the White House, back to the castle with the minister. No doubt, shoes at the front door. Love is what you come for. Let's get it right and unite, but do it fine.
Let's change the world, divided we fall, but united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, so let's learn to live again. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Whoa, oh, oh. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.